everybody. Hopefully it is going to continue to work. Fran has had to find alternate location in order for her internet to work today. So we so very much appreciate those of you who have been trying to tune in for about a half an hour now, waiting for us and joining us today. If you are coming across this for the first time ever and you don't know who we are or what I'm talking about, this is Friday with Fran. I am one host, Shelley, and that is Fran. It's still backwards. It still throws me off.
Is it backwards?
Yeah, because when I point this way, it points to you, but on what I see is I'm pointing away from you. So,
okay.
Fran and I we do this show for several reasons, and we come from different backgrounds, so we have different perspectives, but at the base, what we want to achieve is the same. Yes. And today's topic is about inclusion. And the reason that we're going to talk about inclusion today is Fran and I earlier today had the opportunity to be on another person's podcast, and that will be airing hopefully right around New Year's, and we will let you know when that is going to come out. It's called Carpooling with the RV, and it's with
Lucia. I thought yours was going to air then.
I think mine is airing next week, and ours is the week after.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It doesn't make any sense to me
anyway.
So
I have,
okay,
I have
a
separate one that I recorded with Lucia never mind. I can't say her last name.
Sure. Go for it.
Excuse me. And I apologize if she's watching that I just totally butchered your last name. But anyway, so yeah, I did one with her that's just called the RV. I think. Is that what it's traveling?
Can I turn me?
It's called, yeah, you can. And then the one that Fran and I recorded today is called Carpooling with the RV. And the RV stands for Relatable Voice. And she's just kind of like taking people on a traveling journey with her and meeting new people across the country. So she talks usually about, that like mine, I think we said that I'm from Southern Illinois, but I don't think we told anybody today where you or I are from. So maybe she does carpooling a little different.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm trying to make this so I don't have to hold this because, I'm not very talented at holding things.
Well, yeah, it makes your hands tired, and I understand that. So inclusion. Inclusion is a big topic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of definitions of it. Well, I don't know if there's a lot of definitions of it. There's a lot of interpretations of the definition. Maybe I should put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fran and I, that was our topic with the carpooling with the RV today. And as normal.
I lost you.
Whoa.
Where did you go?
You're going to make people car sick.
Well, are we carpooling? Sorry. Does that work?
That works. Yeah.
Except you're on a rolling chair.
It flipped you the other way.
Yeah. You're on a chair and you're rotating. Like literally.
Yeah. I know.
Rotating.
Like
I don't know how to make you stop rotating.
Very slow movement.
Okay. So, you know what though? Let me tie this into inclusion.
You go for it. You're awesome at that kind of thing.
Because right now, this is how hard it is sometimes for someone to feel included. You have to go to extreme lengths just to feel included.
Wow, look at you. That's awesome.
Does that work?
It does. It works beautifully.
Because can I tell you the journey to how I got to where I'm sitting this very moment?
If you're willing to share, you go for it.
I was at my house, ready to rock and roll, and the internet was not working. So I tried to hotspot my phone to my computer, and it started to, and then all of a sudden, I had no internet on my phone even. And then, so the data service wasn't working on my phone. And that was when we were supposed to go. And so I sent you a text and said, I'm getting in the van. I'm going on a ride to find internet. And so I drove.
And don't give up. Don't
so do not give up. So, and yes, I sent you a text. I said, don't give up. And so I went in my van and I just kept glancing and glancing. And I'm a town away from my town now. And I called a friend and I was like, I have internet. Do you have it? Or do you have internet? Yes, I do. I said, please, can I come in your house and use your Wi-Fi so that I can do my Friday with Fran? And they were like, sure. And they just brought me a bowl of pumpkin curry soup and water.
Ooh.
And here I am. But that is sometimes the hoops and the journey that an individual with different needs has to go to be included.
And what I think I love maybe most about that story is that that had nothing to do with a person with a disability. That
Right.
was completely because of how our dependency upon the internet and data is. And
Mm-hmm.
so that just shows that everybody can go through something,
Mm-hmm.
and we can all experience having different needs at different times. And the fact that your friends were willing, I see it. It looks yummy.
Mm-hmm. I
And the
just had to
fact that your
taste it. Sorry.
friends were willing to open their doors and include you in their home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that wasn't a difficult thing for them to do. So I'm going to tie that into inclusion as well.
Yeah.
Because when we were recording with Lucia, she asked us both the question what we thought the biggest misnomer was about inclusion. And I went first, and then you gave your answer, and they were completely different answers.
Mm-hmm.
And while your answer I totally agreed with, what I said was just putting somebody in a room does not necessarily mean inclusion. And you said it's difficult, that it takes a lot of time, that it was, and there was a third thing you said. Do you remember the third thing?
Um,
It's hard, it's time consuming.
I don't know because it's on my
Yeah.
Google Doc. And does that tell you how dependent we are on our
Oh, see,
technology?
I'm always afraid to do my answers that way when I'm on one of those things because I didn't know you were reading anything. So that worked out really well. But if I was to read something, I feel like I get so dependent that I'm going to
Well,
forget something.
I wasn't reading it. I wasn't reading it per se.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't reading it per se. I had just kind of like little bullet points
Oh, okay.
that to help me because I was actually very overwhelmed by this podcast.
You were that.
It stressed me out to the nth degree. Um, so I was stressing greatly about it.
Well, and I mean, I knew you had said that to me when I asked you if you wanted to do it, but I thought once we would get started you would see that it was pretty similar to what you and I do. Did you see that and feel that once we got started, or were you still very nervous about it?
I was very nervous the whole time.
Well, you did a fabulous job. I would not have known you were nervous.
Oh, thank you. So,
You're welcome.
but yeah, and it kind of that goes in the one of the things was, society says we need to fit into this mold.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was feeling the need to fit into this mold so that I could be included and that
Oh,
I would not embarrass you or cause undue make Lucia disappointed in the fact that she chose to invite me on carpooling.
oh,
So I wanted to be included, but I didn't want my different abilities to cause problems. So I stressed.
that makes me sad.
Why does it make you sad? I was just trying to be real.
You were being real here, but it sounds like you didn't think the real you was good enough for Lucia's show.
Yeah.
And that makes me sad.
I'm sorry.
Because the real you is good enough for everybody. And the real you, I wouldn't have.
Not for society, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's society's problem if they don't treat you the right way. But you are absolutely good enough. You're better than good enough. You're better enough.
Anyway, back to inclusion.
But this is part of inclusion, I think, because to me, being inclusive means, hi, Alex, I'm glad you made it. We've been late. So even if you were late, you're on time.
Oh.
But if we can make the environment such that the person doesn't feel that they have to be a different way, then I think we have reached the pinnacle of inclusion.
Oh, then we have a really long way to go.
Well, I know that. I mean, from the school environment, I know that, but
even in environments that are theoretically inclusive, it doesn't happen.
Tell me what you mean, please.
There are sporting events that are supposed to be inclusive, that are geared towards those who have unique needs. Yet, they haven't figured it all out either.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they're still not inclusive in the fact that individuals cannot be accepted as they are to compete sometimes. They still have to there's still limitations. There are still things that keep them from being included. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And
so it's I think it will be a constantly growing process as we realize what it means to be inclusive.
And I see that, and I agree with that. I'm thinking about what I said and making sure in my own head that what I said is really what I meant, because I think it is.
Okay.
But along with that, I mean, being nervous, I don't think that's different, no matter whether you have unique needs or not. You know, being nervous to do something different, you know, that part of it. It was the part where you said, you know, you were afraid you were going to embarrass me.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't want to let you down.
You wouldn't have. I don't think there's anything. I mean, if you were you wouldn't have let me down. If you were nervous, I understand, because I get nervous doing things sometimes, and I think that's just kind of natural for everyone. But and I appreciate that you didn't want to let me down, because when I do something for someone, I feel the same way. I just don't know if I feel that because of, I don't know. Like now I'm really, really thinking, and it's hurting my head.
I'm sorry.
I need a different chair. This chair is not comfortable anymore.
Okay. So we need to find you a new chair.
So if there are any companies out there that do chairs and you want to, I'll be happy to. You can be a sponsor of our show.
I have a chair in the garage you might want to try.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, we have other chairs in the house. This has just been my office chair for years, and I don't know. I added some cushions to it recently. I should probably get, maybe that's probably the problem, is I just need to remove, because I added B cushions. So
Oh, okay.
excuse me, I probably need to get rid of one of them again, because I had this many before and it was okay. So,
Okay.
but I felt it was always sliding, and so I
Uh-huh.
thought that was my issue with being in the chair. But I think it's just, yeah, it's just the chair is old, and I'm getting older,
Oh, okay.
and we're not cooperating with each other so much anymore. Or
I
it
see.
could be that thing I told you about, before we met with Lucia, that um, I've been my sleep patterns have been off lately. So I could just
Uh-huh.
be tired, and nothing is comfortable when I'm tired.
Yeah. You could be, yes, that could be so. It's
Yeah.
amazing when we are tired how things affect us differently that normally we can cope with.
Yeah.
And um in the vein of inclusiveness, sometimes we forget that um some people are very flexible and are go with the flow type,
Hmm.
and then some people that a schedule is very important, and
Yes.
any variation from it causes great distress. And can
Yep.
I let you in on a secret I have
Of
discovered?
course.
I am one of those people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You like things once they're scheduled to go that way, huh?
Yeah, I thought I was kind of flexible,
Yeah.
but I'm not. And it gave me great, great insight into my daughter.
Oh. How did you
Because,
discover this?
um, well, let me let you in on my journey because it was
Okay.
a great journey. So tomorrow, I was, I had a doctor's appointment, a phone appointment
Hmm.
scheduled for 8:06 in the morning.
Okay.
Do you want to do any
So
translating?
I'm going to interpret. So tomorrow means yesterday, and 8/6
Oh,
is 8:30.
okay. So yeah. So at that, whatever you just said, um, the they were supposed to call. But this phone appointment is one that I always have someone else attend with me
Hmm.
because I can get miscombobulated in it, and it's important that I stay kind of on track on that one. So it requires scheduling with this person to make sure it fits in their schedule and going to where that person is.
Hmm.
So I had it scheduled, and then I had scheduled to go somewhere else, and that person invited me to come in and to spend some time with them. And I hadn't seen them in a while and touch base with them. And then I was to be home because my daughter had a telephone appointment and I needed to be there for hers. So that was the schedule.
Okay.
And there was plenty of time. Okay. It is like 10:06 and I'm still waiting for the 8:06 phone call.
Oh no.
So the person whose house I was at and who had graciously allowed me to hang out that whole time, said, "Why didn't you call and see if everything's okay?" So I call. Well, this person's running behind. Just have your phone ready. I'm like, my phone's on my lap. I don't know how much more ready it can be. But
Right.
okay, clock goes around again. I'm starting to get a little more agitated at this point.
Well, yeah.
I'm getting a little antsy pants, a little impatient, probably not so nice in my thought process. And I don't know if it's coming out of my mouth at this point, if I was filtering it still or not. But so I called again. And they're like, "Oh, well, we just moved your appointment to be at the same time as your daughter's appointment." It was just scheduled at that time because that was the only opening, but technically you're going to be at that time. And the message should have, and I'm like, what in the world? So I'm reading this message and it makes no, the series of messages to see if I miscommunicated or something. So anyway, um, but we'll try to get it so that you can have yours and then still. your daughters will have hers. And I wait and wait, wait. Eventually, I have to leave where I am so I can get home to be at my daughter's appointment. I still have not had mine. So at this point,
Right.
I have an epic meltdown. I'm
Yeah.
crying ugly tears because I'm just frustrated.
Well, yeah.
And I can't voice it, and I'm upset because I put my friend out. I was unable to see my other friend. All these my scheduled plans did not go as I thought they were going to, and it threw me. It threw me greatly. And then I got home, and my daughter had just gotten back from a very, Hawaii,
Hmm.
and she's still recovering from jet lag. Apparently, that's really hit her. And so she didn't quite get the things accomplished that I had asked her to get done. Um, and I redid her room, by the way. And
Hmm.
so it was like immaculately perfect. Well, it's not now. And so
Yeah.
I was trying, I don't need it immaculately perfect, but I did need some of the things done. But I got home and they weren't. And I knew that it had occurred. And I was trying really, really hard not to take all of my turmoil out, but a little bit escaped. And then I had to apologize and explain to her, Mommy didn't do well because I had a schedule or things planned and they didn't go as I planned. I said, I think I kind of get what happens when you have something in your head planned, even if you haven't told me, and it doesn't go the same. She goes, yeah, that's how I feel. And that's why I get mad. And that's why I yell at you. So it gave me great insight into my daughter
Yeah.
and also into others that schedules are very important.
Yep. And
Sorry, that was
something
really
that,
lengthy, but I didn't know how else to explain it.
no, that was beautiful. I think you did a fabulous job. And that reminds me of one of the stories in my book, the story of Rose. In most people's life, if somebody is a person that, we call them like they're always on the go, they never sit still. We typically don't have issue with that, meaning, yeah, okay, we see that they're always busy and they're always on the go, but we don't, it doesn't detrimentally affect us. But with Rose, she had the opposite. She had her own pace, but it was much, much slower
Hmm.
than her parents and her siblings and those of us that worked with her in the schools. And people took problems with that
Okay.
because they didn't, she wasn't going up. And I realized at some point that if we give allowances for the person who is always on the go, we also need to give allowances for the person whose clock ticks a little bit slower. And again, that goes, that's that inclusion piece and that's that individual piece. You
Hmm.
know, knowing the person that you're dealing with and what makes, sorry, did you hear that? That was Jonas.
No.
um, and what makes that person.
Hmm.
And so now you have a little bit better understanding of your daughter because of the situation that you went with. And that's just beautiful, and something that I think is one of the most important things that we as humans can do is recognize when that sort of thing happens and how that can help us work with somebody else or understand or be empathetic towards someone else. Because I really think that
Hmm.
that's a lot of what it takes, is having those experiences, because you can't put yourself in someone's shoes. You can try, but until you really go through what they
Oh,
go
yeah.
through, I mean, I'm empathetic toward your situation and toward, all of the students that I've ever worked with, but I myself have not firsthand experienced. So I don't know exactly what it feels like to be in any of those situations. Sorry, I thought my phone was ringing. Um, but hopefully I'm empathetic enough that it's not A, sympathetic, and B, I'm inclusive because I'm attempting to be empathetic to your situations and your similarities, but also your differences to me.
Yeah. I think you do well at that, because also, much like we've talked just recently, that it's important that we're always learning. We're always willing, realizing we need to learn, that there's always opportunities to learn.
Hmm.
Even the experts in an area are always learning so that they can continue to be that expert.
Right.
Because,
Hopefully.
yes, hopefully they are. The ones that have the pertinent information are the ones that continue to learn so that they can be the expert as their field evolves.
Right.
Um, and to tie back to about what you were speaking, you were saying you can be empathetic, but you're not walking it. I want to go with a real life experience for me. I worked with individuals who their main mode of ambulation was a wheelchair,
Mhm.
and um, sometimes they had a PT program, a program that they had to do daily, which was they were supposed to roll themselves from the time they got home from workshop, from the front of the building to where our group room was.
Mhm.
And some days they wouldn't roll themselves, and I thought that I was helping them be as independent as possible and reach their fullest potential. And also, I was trying to follow this program that they had to do
Right.
because that was the rule, kind of thing. And there were days they just refused, and there were days they grumbled about it. There were days they yelled at me about it, but I was, oh, come on, you can do it. And I was, or some days I'd just say, you need to do it, try to be a little firmer, but I was never mean. But I was,
Right.
um, and now that my mode of transportation some days is a wheelchair when my legs are not cooperating. Um, you know what? There are days I don't want to roll myself.
Right.
There are days my arms hurt horribly, and it just hurts, or my back, to roll the wheels. And I would love for someone to push me. And there are days I'm just tired, and it's just so much effort to roll my chunky monkey body around. So, I'm just like, oh my goodness gracious. I thought I had empathy for these people, and I thought I was helping them reach their fullest potential, and I was following their programs, and I was doing everything I was supposed to be, but I wasn't
Uh-oh.
being there. The fact that they have feelings, and that they're individuals, and that they have a right to say no, and that they have days where they're tired and hurting, and just
Yeah.
plain don't want to do it. And that was their right. And I should have just gone, okay, I'll push you today.
Yeah.
But
And I
until
certainly.
I literally was in their wheelchair, did I even have that understanding.
Right. And there were certainly days where I probably pushed my students when I shouldn't have been pushing. And I don't, I mean, most of my students got around by their own legs, but I did have a few students who were in wheelchairs all or most of their day. And um, yeah, I mean, they didn't refuse to work completely. Sometimes they would refuse, and we would give them a break. Um,
Hmm.
but I still insisted, that at some point they did what I had asked them to do. And I don't know, maybe that was wrong in some of those instances, and maybe I should have just,
Given
because I
them,
don't know.
what is that word?
And
Grace.
right. And the really difficult part is, and maybe your clients that you worked with were this way as well, that they couldn't tell me with words if they were she said grace, you said balance, Alex. um if it was too much.
Hmm. And I like how you said that with words, but they could tell us. And it's funny, my son, who couldn't always tell us, but like we ended up graduating him. We didn't keep him in extended education because by his behaviors, he was telling us, I am done. I'm done with school. There's nothing here that can help me anymore, because his behaviors were communicating he was very unhappy.
Right.
And his teachers were wonderful, and everyone around him, we tried everything and many things and a variety of things, but it might work a bit, but it all came down to he was done. And
Yeah.
so I understood it then. I mean, I finally said, I think he's done. Let's just let him graduate. And I think sometimes, because I knew him well,
Hmm.
I could read that, but sometimes we don't know them well. And so I think it's important sometimes to look for those, as you say, behavior is communication.
Yep.
To look for those non-verbal cues, even for people that are verbal sometimes, looking at those cues that they may say something because they know they're expected to say it,
Right.
but look at their body language, look at how they're acting or their posture, and it might give us a key that they may be saying something just because they know that's what's expected, but they're really telling us something else.
Right. And that's very important, and actually, excuse me, statistically um, proven that our words are about this much of communication.
Hmm.
And it ranges, and the numbers won't necessarily mean much to you, but from like 7 to 10% of our communication is our words. And then all the rest of the communication is our tone of voice, our body language, and how fast or how slow we're speaking.
Okay.
So, yeah, even people who are verbal may not always tell you with their words. And you don't always need to know with words. I mean, you can see if someone's smiling and jumping up and down and clapping, but not saying anything. I think pretty much anybody in the United States knows what that means, you know. So everybody does it, whether a person is verbal or not. Like I said, it was just, you know, I was able to help students reach a lot of goals and a lot of potential that other people said they wouldn't reach.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that some of that had to do with the pushing. But
As Alex says, there's a balance in there
there's
somewhere.
right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I want to say something about um inclusion. If you don't know, ask.
Hmm.
It's okay to, how would you, how would it be best to, how would you like it to be, will this make you feel more included? If I do this, are you, does this, is it make it easier for you to be part of everybody, or does it make you feel like you stand out? Because
Yeah.
like another example, I guess, hopefully this doesn't become all about me show. Sorry.
It is
an,
called Friday with Fran.
oh, I, well, but you know what I mean. But
I know.
the other day, I was, I can't remember where I was, but I was in my wheelchair, and they were going to put me in where wheelchairs could sit, which were all the way in the back. There was an
Oh,
opening,
okay.
but a lot of people were standing. And I said, "Is there any way that I could be put where when people stand, I can still see the platform?" And then they went the other extreme and they took me all the way to the very front and set me in front of the front row. Well, okay, so that really didn't help me in the aspect that I definitely didn't feel like I was part of everybody else. I was in front of everybody else. I had
Right.
a great view, and I know that they heard what I said, and they were that was their solution. So I tried to help them out a little bit, and I said, I think these chairs are movable. Is there any way we could remove a chair from this row? And then I could sit in the same row as everybody else, but not in front of everyone. And then I can be part of everyone and not
Yeah.
stand out. And I think sometimes in our rush to include, we don't always ask, what would be best for you?
Right.
Because what's best for me or what's best for you may not be for the next person.
Right. Yeah. And that's
Sorry, I
where
keep getting
when
phone calls. Yeah.
oh, well, and I mean it is our normal ending time. I realize we started later. So if you need to go, if you have stuff scheduled, I don't want to throw you off your schedule more.
No, I just drove across the countryside just so I could find internet. I'm okay right now. I
Right.
just keep declining, and people are probably like, "Fran, what are you doing?" But
Oh, okay. But
we might need to end a little sooner, but we're okay.
okay. So that's where I was kind of thinking where the proximity does not equal inclusion.
Right.
Because I
I
know
like that.
that oftentimes, in a classroom, but that's a beautiful real life example. I mean, I'm thinking about like going to a professional baseball game in the big city near us in St. Louis, and the people that are needing wheelchairs or need special seating of whatever kind have a section. They're not sitting with their family. They're off with other people who have similar needs. Not everywhere in the stadium, but in some places. And that does happen frequently where,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, well, we've made this accommodation for you. Here you go. We've included you.
Right.
But
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
said is so beautiful. It's like, I would like to be within the row. So I'm not stuck out like a sore thumb in front of everybody else, but I'm still able to participate, whether people are sitting or standing, and so is everyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the school environment, oftentimes, especially with those students that are only in music class or, in those specials types of classes, and they're rarely ever, I mean, I'm talking, not even a full day
Mm-hmm.
in a whole school year with their general peers, they go in and there's no place designed for them. But because we brought them in, we've included them. That's
Right.
not really the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to think about that. Look at it as like if you had a foreign exchange student. If you just put the foreign exchange student in the classroom and that student had no idea how to speak the language, you haven't included them
Right.
just because you've put them there.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate your real life example and how you continued to ask until you truly felt included. So my question, and I'm wondering, when you asked, okay, they've moved you from the back to the front, and then you're still saying, well, could we do this? What was their reaction?
They were very amiable and like, sure, yeah. I just knew. wanted to make sure you could see. I didn't realize you couldn't see from the back.
Okay. Good,
And
because
so
I don't think that would be
they
everyone's reaction or
yeah,
everyone's
no,
experience.
I don't think so. Um, and yeah, I'm trying to think in my experiences, either working with individuals or as myself, there have been times, yeah. Well, this is it.
Right.
Actually, I do have an experience of that. I went to a conference and paid extra so that I could be seated in closer. And we asked, would there be accommodations for someone in a wheelchair? To make sure that we could stay seated in that section and still see but still have the benefits of what we paid extra for. Sure, sure. Then the thing happened and there were no accommodations. And then I was shuffled to and fro as each
Oh,
person took it upon themselves, thinking they knew what the rules were or what was allowed or what wasn't allowed. And eventually I rolled myself out of the building in tears because
oh,
um, what they thought was going to work. And because remember, I said I'm discovering more and more that a schedule change
mhm.
is very difficult for me. Yeah, yeah. So, um, so the conference turned out to be a real struggle for me. It was not fun. It was not pleasant because they never did find a place for me
Oh,
because I was with a group of people and I could not be with them. I ended up sitting directly behind them in a row. So I was by myself in a row and they were in front of me. And when everyone stood, all I saw was people's backs.
right.
And there was a good portion of the conference people were standing.
Oh,
And so it it took away from the experience for me. It was very disappointing, and I will never go back to that conference because I don't want to experience that again. And it makes me sad because I don't think they ever understood.
right. Well, Alex had to leave. Um, she said sorry, it needs to go by, and that was just a little bit ago. So
Okay.
I didn't see that
Yeah.
until just now. So,
Okay.
um, but she's got a
Um,
schedule, I bet. So she's got she's got an appointment
yeah.
or something she's got to stick to. But you
And
know,
I'm gonna probably we'll have to probably close it up too soon. So
okay.
sorry.
I just can I tell one story before we stop?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so on Netflix, I've been watching Grey's Anatomy, and if you're not familiar with the show, it's all about surgeons who work at a hospital and just kind of and so last night's episode that I watched, and I don't even know what season it was or anything. One of the main characters had something really bad happen, and she was in the hospital where they all take care of her, and her hearing had been had some damage to it, so she couldn't hear what they were saying to her. And first of all, it took them a really long time, in my opinion, for them to catch on to the fact that, she was reacting to, if they were doing stuff to her, she would react to pain stimulus, and they kept talking to her and they kept telling her to do things and she wasn't doing things, and they were supposedly doing all their exams, and I know that this is not actual medical how this would happen, but they they had done several things to her before one of them
Mhm.
said, I don't think she can hear us. And so even when they then were like, oh, and they did some exam and they looked in her ear supposedly, and oh yeah, this is damaged, whatever, they still did not write stuff out for her. They continued to talk all around her, but they
Mhm.
didn't include her. And that really bothered me because almost the entire episode and the episode supposedly encompassed many, like almost a full calendar of days, one full calendar of days, and then some before her hearing came back.
Mhm.
And not once did anybody ever write anything out for her until the very, very end. And then it was like, oh, well, let's write, like she wants to say something to us. So let's write down, because then she'd had to have her jaw wired shut. So then they knew she couldn't talk and they let her write. But when she couldn't hear, nobody wrote anything out. And there was one scene that really stuck out to me and just really, really angered me. And it was that the doctors, there were 3 of them in the room, and they were talking, and she must have, supposedly moved in the bed to make some noise. And so they all turned around and looked at her, and they said something. And so, you see their mouths moving. She didn't respond, and they just kind of went, and, oh, she still can't hear. And then they turned around and started talking about her care again. And I thought, oh my gosh, does that really happen?
Mm-hmm.
And it really angered me and made me sad all at the same time, because we should,
And so
look, I have this thing, and I'm like,
so how can we take our righteous anger, and I think by doing what we're doing now, how can we change it a situation at a time, change it a moment at a time, draw attention a moment at a time.
yeah.
Because I see, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I probably interrupted you.
No, but yeah, no, but how you, I get it. I see what you're saying. And I mean, it's happened, and I'm sure we do that. Like I used to do medical transportation. I would take clients to the doctor, and they would talk to me, even if I sat behind the client.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't.
Right. And the thing that I was about to say before, when I probably interrupted you, is that recently I've been this whole month of December. I don't know the name of the website that I got these from. It was something about autism. But they had these things a few years ago where it was like every day in December, they had a different fact about autism.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been sharing those. I've shared those for the last couple of Decembers since I found them. And the one from the other day was about nonverbal people. And that just because, they can't respond to you in the way that you're expecting doesn't mean they don't have anything to say. And that wasn't exactly how it was worded, but that was kind of how it was worded. So then I added to it when I posted it, and I said, and it also doesn't mean they can't hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, and I still do because I still see it happening, get so frustrated with people that would talk about my students in front of my students in negative ways, or say, tell them, oh, well, they can't do this. And that's kind of the negative way that I'm talking about, and it would just irritate me. And then having the low expectations of people because they can't speak, and therefore you think that means they don't have an intelligence level to understand. And I get that, because if you know my journey, you know that I kind of had those same ideas before. And that's maybe why it aggravates me so much, is because I've changed and I want other people to change, and I'm not able to get them to change fast enough for my liking. So,
yeah, I get it.
but I really do think that that's what it is, because it isn't that people, I don't think, are maliciously thinking, oh, well, that person's, we're not thinking about, oh, you know what, just because the person doesn't speak doesn't mean they can't, that they don't understand what I'm saying, or that they don't have a response to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So right. Yeah, I hope that you're right. I hope that by doing this, and by my doing hashtag no limits, and by the book, Those Who Can't Teach, that will change, that someday some stranger will walk up to me and say, you know what, I really appreciate what you've done, because I never thought about something in the manner that, after watching your show, I now think about it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be the ultimate compliment, I think, for our shows.
For sure. think so. I think that all we can do is speak from our experiences to help everyone out there grow and keep learning, and to advocate for those that may not have a voice, and make everyone realize that they're not alone, that we're all in this together.
Yep. I think that's a good spot to stop. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right. Is next week Christmas Eve day? Yes, it is. It is. So do you want, we haven't talked about this. So maybe we'll be here. Not sure yet.
Okay.
Fran and I will discuss it. See, this is how we are. It's like in the spur of the moment when we talk about things. She didn't know we were going to talk about inclusion until we were doing our other recording with the other person this morning. And I was like, hey, by the way, we're going to talk about inclusion if that's okay with you. So maybe we'll see you next week. If not, Merry Christmas, everyone. Be blessed and be at peace. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.